for entertainment purposes only. And if you want true legal advice, contact your own lawyer.
Are you serious? Oh, come on.
This is Radio Law Talk with Frederick Penney.
So we try not to talk about Trump all the time because that's a full-time job and it's so politically charged back and forth on both sides. We do like to bring out both sides, but we have to bring out what's going on in the issue of the House panel trying to subpoena Trump's records. The underlying courts, including the appellate courts, have held in D.C. that Trump basically has to open up his books to this House committee. And which House committee is this? I can't remember off the top of my head.
House Oversight Committee.
Oversight Committee. But just recently, this week, this is why it's important to bring this up, the United States Supreme Court put a halt on all of that and said they didn't, Trump didn't win. All they did is put a halt on it so the Supreme Court can hear the arguments. And those filings have to be filed by December 5th. Before the Supreme Court to determine whether or not these subpoenas are appropriate or not for the House committee to get all of his information. Now, Todd brought up during the break that Denise, Todd, and I were discussing this. It's not necessarily they're asking for his tax returns, but he's going to go through this actual subpoena, what it says.
Yes, and so what we have here is that this subpoena was first issued on the 15th of April this year by the House Oversight Committee. And what they are seeking from Mazars, now Mazars is the name of the accounting agency that did Trump organization's finances, and it used to be called Weiser Mazars. And so what they're seeking is for an 8-year period, information from the following 4 categories, but the second category has no time restrictions and opens it up. So the first one is they want all statements of financial condition, not just tax returns. In the media, you hear tax returns.
Cal's showing a fishing expedition.
This says here, all statements of financial condition, annual statements, periodic financial reports, and independent auditors' reports prepared, compiled, reviewed, or audited by Mazars USA LLP or its predecessor, Weiser Mazars LLP. That's one. 2, without regard to time, all engagement agreements or contracts related to the preparation, compilation, review, or auditing of the documents described in number 1. And then it just keeps going on to where they want any and all communication basically from any employee in the Trump organization. It's very broad, and because of the timing of the lower court decision saying, yes, you have to turn it over, there was not time to file an appeal to have it heard, to even see if the Supreme Court would even entertain hearing it. And so they've got relief to allow them to file their briefs by the 5th to see if the U.S. Supreme Court's even going to hear it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. My understanding is that the entity that they're trying to get the documents from, it does not relate to Trump's businesses. It relates to Trump himself and his tax filings, and that this is his long time, I think in excess of 8 years, accountants. And they're also asking for audits, correct?
They are asking, among those are the financial information and independent auditors' reports prepared by. Now, it is him, but consider this here. This is number 4. All memoranda, notes, and communications related to the preparation, compilation, review, or auditing of the documents described in number 1, which is all those things, including but not limited to all communication between Donald Bender and Donald Trump or any employee or representative of the Trump organization, and all communications related to potential concerns that records, documents, explanations, or other information were incomplete, inaccurate, or otherwise unsatisfactory.
It's wide open.
Right,
yeah.
It's very wide open, but the reality is there's no privileged documents there because, and I talked just about this with my CPA, that they won't give out the records absent a subpoena. But if they're given a subpoena, they have to give out the records because the financial records are not in and of themselves privileged, and there's communications between you and your CPA are not
What
privileged
about the
communications.
attorneys? What about if you have attorney communication within those?
Yeah, what if your
documents?
CPA is a tax attorney? What if you are talking with a tax attorney? You hear this all the time on the radio. These tax attorneys offering, call me and we'll go over this and we'll get your past tax returns filed and do this, and everything is protected because I can perform this service and I'm also your lawyer.
Yeah, no, I think that's the exception.
So
for sure.
So that's what they've got here. I think the argument with all of this is that the House Oversight Committee doesn't have the authority to issue this subpoena. That this subpoena would be rightly issued in connection with maybe an impeachment inquiry. It might be properly given with regard to a criminal inquiry, but that the entity it came from is beyond the purview of what they can. That's the argument that they are going to make. Well, we'll see how that one plays out.
I think oversight means oversight, and part of their directive is that they're supposed to oversee.
Oversee what, though?
The different areas of our government.
Well,
So the oversight can oversee the judiciary, the oversight can see the legislative, and they can oversee the executive.
When they do that, that's typically overseeing programs and things that are going on here. This oversight is looking into things that happened before Donald Trump was even part of government as a private individual. It seems broad.
It does seem broad.
But the remedy here for this, though, is let's say the court agrees with him and it's overly broad. Well, guess what entity is going to issue the next subpoena? Adam Schiff over there doing the impeachment inquiry.
Judicial.
They're going to go ahead and do this as part of the impeachment inquiry or the DOJ.
What does that tell you? And we're going to get to Cal in a second. What does that tell you about if you're a business person and want to run for office?
Don't do it.
Hard pass. Hard pass. Not that there's anything being hidden. Who wants that opened up?
It goes further. You guys should challenge yourself. Don't you remember why Trump said he wasn't going to release his taxes? Because he was in an audit. So it goes further. What they're trying to see is just exactly, and it came as a result of Mueller and Cohen, because Cohen made these statements about Trump making false representations to lenders or false representations to the tax authorities. So this is what the oversight is looking at.
But
I would say it's what they're looking at, but if he made false statements to lenders overinflating, that's fraud. That's a criminal thing. Let the DOJ investigate it. Let it be part of the impeachment inquiry.
Well, the DOJ won't.
Well, this is just political. This is the problem. Yeah. This is political. Sure, Trump is over the Justice Department. That's why the Justice Department had no trouble investigating Trump. Look at the hearings that they had. Look at all of this stuff with Mueller and all of that.
They got the FISA warrant.
Yeah. I mean, come on. So this is just politics, guys. It is political theater.
Here's the interesting thing I want to bring up.
I wouldn't call it theater. We have a constitutional crisis right now where you've got to have 3 different branches of the law, and now we're testing it. We're just flexing muscles all the way around to see just how far
But here's the
each
interesting
branch
thing
goes.
is, I think you're right to some degree. What I see here is something that's going to affect both sides. Because guess
absolutely.
what? Be careful what you wish for, because it's going to open up the Democrats. Now, here's what I worry about.
True.
Here's what I worry about. I'm going to say this. I've always worried about this. I think people that should be running this government should have some business experience. I don't think one person I know they have a right, should be stepping foot in the government unless they've been an employer or an employee. If they're full-time government, like people, they don't understand reality.
Don't understand the rules that the government makes and their effect on the common person trying to make a living.
And what I'm saying here is...
I think the difference, if you have somebody that's only been in the business world and has never been in politics ever in their life, they don't know how the political structure works.
And I don't disagree with that. Here's my point I'm bringing up.
That's a crime.
What I'm bringing up is I worry about people getting cold feet that want to run for the offices that have any business experience or had their own businesses or have done that in the past because, wow, is everything going to be open up? I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. I ain't running because I'm not opening up everything in my life.
May not have qualified candidates.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Worst case scenario for the Democrats, Trump wins re-election. But even then, it's only 2 terms. He goes back into private life. He goes back as a private citizen. But if you have to turn over all your finances, what business person would go in knowing that when their politics career comes to an end, everything that they have is now exposed? It's very difficult to run a business when everybody knows everything about your finances. That's
Right.
just
It's been in the past that way.
not
no,
really.
no one's
No, it
no one's
hasn't.
done that
Never,
like this.
never really happened
Not
like
this.
before. This
But I
is
think you're
unprecedented,
right, Denise.
yeah.
It's testing a lot right now. We've
think
never done this before.
I have to say I'm learning a lot about our government.
Go to the website, radiolawtalk.com. That's radiolawtalk.com.